Welcome into another edition of ACC Baseball, etc. He's Danny Graves, MLB Showdown legend. Danny Graves, as we've come to find out, the old card game. He got me some saves against my brothers rolling with a 20-sided die back in the day. Oh, look at that. If you're viewing on YouTube, that's the 2000 card, right?
Yeah, 2000. Okay. Yeah.
You were slightly worse in the 01 edition, just so you know. You peaked in MLB Showdown that year, 2000.
Yeah, 2000 was a good year for me. 2001 was okay.
He's Danny Graves. I'm Darren Vaught. Welcome in. We're going to have a former teammate of Danny's join us a little bit later in the show, Gino DiMare. We've already recorded that, so just like a heads up. And if you're watching, you've sort of noticed a new setup for me. This is out of necessity. I am holding my microphone. I had to get closer and to the technology in my home to be able to stream today for whatever reason. But those issues will be knocked out and we'll be fine come next week. That being said, I drop out very early in our conversation with Gino DiMare. So it's basically Gravy and Gino just which was going to be the case anyways. I think my plan was just to let you guys have at it and, catch up and chum it up and that sort of thing. But Miami back into the top 25. You're rocking your old jersey. Is that from what exact, is that an actual jersey that you wore and pitched in?
Oh yeah. This is my actual jersey from 1992. I can't believe it fits. Number 36. We got the Ron Frazier patch here. Ron Frazier's last year. This is the first time I've worn this since I was 18 years old, my freshman year.
Okay.
So I wore it in honor of Gino.
Nice. Love that.
Yeah. So we got to chum it up a little bit. So, yeah, I mean, you were just going to produce /direct /state for that anyways, you say, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, I never like to go one-on-one with interviews, or if I have to accidentally be a play-by-play guy. It's happened once. I don't ever want to do it again. So make sure your internet doesn't go out again, Darren.
I will. Speaking of which, Danny, this is the first time we've recorded one of these being able to say we were both on games this past weekend. So we got to talk about what we saw, what we observed, calling those games. You and Danny Wexelman had the Notre Dame at Wake Forest doubleheader on Saturday. I myself went to Clemson, South Carolina for the very first time in my life and did the full series against a Duke between them and the Tigers on ACC Network Extra. So we had a doubleheader on Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Game 3, which turned out to be a good old-fashioned rubber match yesterday. It was a lot of fun. I got a lot of thoughts on Clemson and just the environment, my first experience at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Why don't you get started, though, because it's very newsworthy that you covered Wake Forest this weekend. We just got the new D1 baseball polls, and they're up to number 2 in the country.
Yeah. And I know you did one of their games earlier in the year, and obviously we've watched other games on TV, but they are as advertised. I mean, they're no joke. Our very first guest of this podcast, Nick Kurtz, the first baseman.
Nicky Nukes.
Nicky Nukes. He didn't disappoint. He had a nuke in both games. And I'm telling you, the ball jumps off his bat. He had his first 2 at-bats in game 1 on Saturday. Right-handed pitcher, Jackson Denny's from Notre Dame. Kind of he was a reliever last year. Now he's been put into the rotation to see if they can give him some innings. Well, he's flipping this little slider up there and keeping him off balance. And he did an amazing job. He got into the 4th inning, 3 2/3. But he had Nick Kurtz reaching out for pitches and swinging over pitches, striking out. And I'm like, he's going to adjust. He has to. He's that good of a hitter. Well, then his next at bat, they bring in a lefty, and he just was sitting on this little breaking ball, and he smoked it. Oh my gosh. It was just like, the adjustments that he makes in game are professional. Like, you don't see a lot of college hitters do that. They, sometimes it takes them until a couple games later to get out of this slump. But Nicky Nukes, man, right away, he's like, okay, I got to fix this. And then from there on, he was like lights out. The next game, he hit a ball that didn't get 15 feet off the ground, line drive for a home run in right field. It was amazing to see. Brock Wilken didn't have a great day at the plate, but he was phenomenal defensively. And I know that's what a lot of scouts say, that his third base defense isn't as good as it should be. Well, he had a lot of action. He made a ton of great plays. Of course, I got to see Rhett Lauder dominate. Sean Sullivan, the left-handed pitcher throwing an invisiball, dominated. And their bullpen, Cam Manassi, he might not give up a run the whole year. The rest of the year.
Nobody can catch up with it.
And the mentality that he has, man, on that mound, that's the kind of closer that you want. That mentality, that mound presence is unheard of. So you can't teach that. It's just you have it or you don't, and he had it. So Coach Walter was great, getting to talk to him, and not to leave Notre Dame out. They've I think made some good strides. They're a team trying to find their identity with the new head coach, and they got some new players. They do have a lot of graduate seniors, but their pitching staff is it's almost like you got to flip a coin. Let's see who's going to throw today, or who's coming in this inning. And they pieced it together. They brought in a freshman in one of the games, bases loaded, nobody out. True freshman's got 2 innings on the year. Here you go, kid. Help us out. And he ended up giving up the runs, but he did a great job, giving up a weak single for a hit and RBI and then a sacrifice fly. And he ended up throwing a couple more innings, but I think they kind of figured out more roles for certain guys. Even though they got beat in the first 2 games, they found out more roles and how guys can help them throughout the rest of the year. And they ended up winning game 3 that we didn't call, but it was definitely a treat to get to see Wake Forest. Gosh, they're good, man. They are really good.
The pitching staff is as deep as everybody says it is. That lineup, I mean, of course, we can't stop talking about Nick Kurtz and Brock Wilken, but I mean, it's top to bottom. Adam Cecere, sort of goes overlooked. He's a great hitter.
Well, Tommy Hawk at the top of the lineup is hitting over 450.
He is the quintessential leadoff guy. And he is the one beginning things for the rest of those power bats that they've got. Just and again, when I was there, their middle infielder Justin Johnson absolutely smoked one. And he's the sort of slight of frame one, 5'10", 180, 185 or something like that. I mean, he's not the big towering presence that Brock and Nick are. But when you find out he's capable of it too.
Oh yeah. He went Bombzilla in game 1.
Yep. Yeah. And it's top to bottom. They have dudes. And
Gio Cueto, who is getting more playing time now because Bennett Lee has a broken finger, I believe it is what they said. He hit his first college career home run in one of those games. He was on base every time. Let's see, he batted 8 or 9 times. He was on base every time but once in those 2 games. I mean, it was just, and he was in the 7 or 8 hole. Their 9-hole hitter, Merrick Houston, the shortstop, who
great defender, incredible awesome defender.
And I said the whole time, like, I don't care what this kid hits, just play defense because you got plenty of other guys. Well, he ends up having the go ahead. He hit a triple to take the lead in game 1 and that they never let go. So, I mean, he had a couple big hits in that series, but 1 through 9, man, it's crazy.
Yeah. And the pitching staff is similar through the 9th inning. You mentioned Manassi, the bullpen help is there. Again, up to number 2 in the country. I think to this point, it's justifiably so. Well, cool. I was glad to see the two Dannys on the call together. Quite the tandem. That was a lot of fun. What I did catch of it. So again, I went to Clemson for the first time ever, and it's sort of been in the works. I'd never done a series there. The guy that crews games there is named Rick Bagby, and he also sort of leads the production. I want to shout him out because they do a phenomenal job. It is an incredibly sharp production for everything. And they had softball going on at the same time to worry about. I got giddy when we had a dedicated TrackMan monitor up in the booth for us. So the second something got hit,
spoiled.
I could see how what the exit velo was.
Uh-huh.
The second every pitch was thrown, I could see velo and spin rate, and we had the strike zone spot chart too. So if it was outside and it was called a strike, we knew. It really helps when you're trying to gauge, okay, what's an umpire's strike zone and how good of a job that person is actually doing. So I was spoiled with that. You're well aware of the Cajun Cafe beyond the wall and right. I
tell
was
us what you ate.
previously unaware. Oh man, we did the doubleheader on Saturday, which of course was the day after St. Patrick's Day because that was Friday. Yeah, day after St. Patrick's Day. They brought corned beef and cabbage to us with fries, and everything seems to come with fries at the Cajun Cafe, and they season them in a way that it's just like better than any fry you've ever eaten in your life. So that was phenomenal. Really good food. And then even for Sunday, we were wondering, without the doubleheader, they have sympathy for us when we have the longer day, so they bring us food. They were like, no, we had some of that corned beef left, and we made Reubens. And I had a box. Look, let me tell you, Danny, a Reuben it's not a thing that I will like frequently seek out, right? Maybe a few times in my adult life have I really thought, it would be good right now, a Reuben sandwich. But when you get a good one, it was phenomenal. It was so good. And in that same box, they had more fries, of course.
Yeah.
And a bacon wrapped chicken leg in there just for kicks.
Oh my gosh.
It was unbelievable. So shout out to the wonderful people at the Cajun Cafe beyond the right field wall at Doug Kingsmore Stadium.
So you didn't get any frog legs?
No, they weren't doing that this weekend. But I did hear that that's sort of their thing.
Yeah, that is their thing. And it was good for a minute when I had it, but then it's too juicy. Like
too juicy.
Yeah. So a lot of people I'm sure like that, but I would have loved to have had that Reuben. I love me some Reubens.
Man, it was good. And with the last name like Vaught, I got a little bit of German descent in me. So the sauerkraut and it's just it was making my insides happy.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So that was phenomenal. I worked with an analyst for the very first time who was 77 years old, sharp as a tack. It was none other than former Furman baseball coach Ron Smith, who also played at Furman. He also played basketball at Furman, so a two-sport guy back in his day. Coached there for like 23, 24 years, now a defunct program, sadly. Right. What an interesting guy. Just an incredible teammate on the air, too. Yeah. I joked with you before we started recording, when you do this sort of thing and you get paired with people for the first time, especially somebody in my shoes, when I hear that my broadcast partner is going to be a 77-year-old man who's a former coach, there's a little bit of apprehension that okay, are we going to speak the same language when we're talking about the game of baseball?
Right.
Ron was referencing the TrackMan stuff more than I was.
How's he? You wouldn't even think that he knows what that is.
No, but there was a pitch, Alex Gal for Duke, I believe on his changeup reaches about 2,600 RPM on his spin rate. And Ron was blown away by it. He's like, man, that's elite. That's really good. That's excellent. And it's just like, I love that you know what that is or how to apply it in a conversation. So that was incredible. And then we go into the open of, this is a little pulling the curtain back. So we rehearse our opens, right? And we sort of run through, okay, we're going to talk about headed into game one of the series. We're going to talk about Alex Mooney for Duke. He's their shortstop, preseason all ACC, hitting the ball really well. And then we're going to jump to a Clemson player. And in this case, it's going to be Cooper Ingle, who has been a clutch machine for them in the past week and a half or so. So we run through it the first time. It's pretty, it's standard stuff. So then we get on the air and I tee up Ron about Cooper Ingle to give me a thought. And I'm like, man, what a week Cooper Ingle has had. He's, the past 5 games or so, he's been on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron, 77 years old, looks over at me, smirk on his face while he's doing it, and says, "Yeah, Daron, you know the song, All I Do Is Win? Well, all Cooper Ingle does is hit, hit, hit." And I'm like, a 77-year-old man in the same broadcast referenced spin rate and ludicrous.
Yeah.
I love it. He was just a joy to work with. A super interesting guy who's led an incredible life. He was pulling up pictures. He's bald, so he was joking about me having good hair, and he goes, I used to have hair, and I sort of laugh it off. And he pulls out his phone, and it's a picture of a basketball team. It says their jerseys say Indiana HS All-Stars. So he grew up in Indiana. Made some sort of high school all-star basketball team. Shows me the team picture. He goes, which one do you think is me? And there were 2 candidates, very obvious, in the front right. One was him, little slider in frame, and Larry Bird was next to him, and he had Larry Bird hair. Like, they had identical hair.
Oh my gosh!
It turns out he made this high school all-star team, the same one as Larry Bird, and they were roommates for that week or weekend that the team was together.
Oh my gosh.
He was a blast to work with. Shout out, I doubt he's listening, but former Furman head coach Ron Smith.
So I want to know what your immediate comment was after the ludicrous reference.
I think I might have just laughed and said, I don't know if I expected a ludicrous reference on today's program, but here's the lineup 1 through, because we had to move on, right? It's the beginning of the game. We got to go into the lineup and then starting pitcher for the home team. It was whatever it was brief and in passing, but I think I laughed and was like, wow, I'm not sure I expected Ludacris to make his way into the program. But here's the lineup for Duke. It'll go Mooney, Bashirs, and whoever to start things off.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
It was a lot of fun. Clemson's fan base is great. Man, they brought the energy. Students are on spring break or were at Clemson. I assume they returned today for classes, but campus was relatively dead, but people still showed up for that game.
Right. And you got to see the legend, Jack Leggett. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with Legs because of his time with Team USA and his role with the 18U national team. I'd never met Eric Bakich before. So about 2 hours before the first game, I go hang out next to the net and I see Legs, and they're taking infield, outfield. He's got a glove on. He's catching some balls that are being sent in toward home. And he actually misses one, bounces by him and back into the wall. And I joked with him about not having enough reach to get down there and get it. And he sort of laughs, and he probably thought I was just a usual Clemson fan. And without looking at me, he's like, how you doing? And I'm like, Coach, I'm doing great, man. And he sort of double takes. He's like, oh, it's you. Like, so we caught up for a few minutes. And again, I'd never met Eric Bakich before. And Leggett was the one, as they were coming in from taking in and out, who grabbed Eric and was just like, oh, have you met Coach yet? Have you met Coach yet? So it's just funny that, when Jack Leggett is the one who introduces you to someone, there's a built-in sense of credibility, which I appreciate in that moment. But Eric was great too. Obviously, he's a star of a coach. I was just at East Carolina last weekend, and that's his alma mater. So we talked a little bit about the Pirates, and I'm reading a Keith LeClaire biography as we speak, who is the coach that he played for, and they're doing Mustache March to benefit ALS research. So,
oh, nice.
Had a lot to talk about with Bakich. That dude, by the way, and I'm going to rave about him and what I think the Clemson program is going to be very soon in a bit. But I just want to comment on Eric Bakich in that dude hits one hell of a fungo. It is a tool. He's out there. It's precise, man. Every time before he brings it up to his shoulder, he takes a hack down at the ground, and the top of the bat hits the ground. He brings it right back up to his shoulder. Boom. Bah, bah, bah. He is machinery with a fungo in his hand.
Yeah.
Every ball was well hit. It was, although Ron laughed, he was like, yeah, but he doesn't do the pop-up for the catcher at the end. Wait for it. You'll see. That's the true mark.
That is, yeah, I got to agree with Ron. That's the true. If you can do that, you're a master with the fungo. But why is Backett still hitting in and out? He's the head coach. He
was taking grounders. We showed it on the broadcast yesterday.
Yeah.
Pre-game. He was over at third taking some grounders, and we got video
I would
of
too.
it.
I think I would too if I was the head coach. I wouldn't be able to just sit there and watch.
Yeah, I mean, and especially Beckett's 45. The dude's fit; like he can still do it. So, keep yourself young. Might as well. You're right there. You're watching.
So he's only 45.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm older than he is. Jeez. I didn't realize. I mean, not that I thought he was old, but I didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah.
So good for him that he's out there doing that, though. I think if I ever had that job title, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
I would not just sit there and act like a manager or head coach.
No, that's tough. It's tough to watch, right? I mean, even I go to broadcast games and I'm watching BP. I'm like thinking, man, can I get a couple hacks in?
Yeah,
like,
or just let me go shag or something. I just want to touch the baseball again.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, all around really great experience. Duke got the series from Clemson. That's an interesting young team.
Clemson.
Both.
Oh,
but I was speaking about Duke.
Okay.
In terms of this year implications, Duke is really interesting. And they are sort of overachieving based on expectations, particularly in the pitching staff. They have a lot of really young bullpen arms I think you'd like a lot, Danny. A freshman righty named Aiden Weaver who came in pumping 97 yesterday.
Freshman.
Wow. 97.
Yeah, that's
he's good. They've got Fran O'Shell III, who is a second-year sophomore, I believe. Lights it up. He throws a really heavy ball. Owen Prosch is sort of a lefty specialist that saw a couple of appearances over the weekend as a freshman. They're interesting, and they've scored 10-plus runs now in. Let me think. They did it yesterday. 11-8 was the final. 8. That's the 8th time this season they've scored 10-plus runs, and they've gotten 20-plus a few times.
Yeah,
so they can hit.
Yeah.
They can hit for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Defense was a cause for concern over the weekend for them, but now they're making it work with the pitching staff.
Santucci is their number one, right?
Yes, Tucci is their ace. And they got a 3-2 victory in game 1 of the doubleheader on Saturday. Clemson was really patient with Santucci. They got his pitch count up early, so he got up to 95 pitches or so through 3 1/3, and they pulled him. And he'd only given up 2 runs. It's not like he pitched bad.
Right.
But they got his pitch count up and got him out of there early. Well, then Duke just sends out young reliever after young reliever, and they made it work. And then they scored enough runs. They won it 3-2. I don't know if this is by design. Duke depends on the long ball a lot.
Yeah.
With their offense, or at least
it's been the case so far.
Yeah. A lot of their runs that they generate are brought in via the home run. They had 4 solo home runs in game 2.
Solo home runs aren't good.
Yeah.
Well, they're good for pitching. You want to give up a solo, but
let me put a positive spin on it. In that game 2, they lost it 14-9. But in that game 2, I thought I was going to see something that maybe I've never seen before. Duke for sure hadn't done it all season. They ended up not. Each time up to the plate in the first 8 innings of that game, leadoff batter reached safely. 4 of them were homers.
Oh my
4
gosh.
leadoff home runs.
So that tells me that they're just hunting some fastballs early in the count.
Yeah.
Leading off an inning.
And they were aggressive. They're aggressive at the plate. They were aggressive late in game 3 of the series against Clemson, which was smart. It stands to reason. They scored 5 in the top of the 9th and got the series victory. But by that point, Clemson, and this is when I'll get into the potential of the Tigers, Clemson just ran out of arms. Yeah. They don't have a lot in the tank. What they do have is pretty good, but they got to a point yesterday in, a long series, and their starter on Saturday in game 2 only went 1 1/3. So they had to deplete the bullpen a little bit.
Right.
So by Sunday, they go into the 9th inning up 1 run, and they got nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. They ended up using 4 pitchers. They trotted out a sophomore righty who had not appeared in a game all year. And, I mean, get 9th inning of a decisive game 3 in your first ACC series of the season is not the time to put somebody in for the first time on the mound. But I think they didn't had
no choice. Well, a doubleheader with a team that is short on pitching to begin with.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yep. So it was, but they almost gritted it out. And that's what I like about them. They're plucky. Yeah. They're feisty, man. Let me tell you, of their young players, Cam Canarella is their leadoff man, a freshman center fielder. That dude.
Such a great name, by the way.
Great name. Plays with a ton of moxie. Almost to his detriment at points. He got heated about something in game 3 yesterday. And at one point, he hit I think it was a double on a 2-0 count earlier in the game, maybe a second plate appearance. And after each of those 2 balls passed, he did the leg swipe, the sweep of the leg to shove dirt in the direction of the pitcher's mound. And it was very animated, a big sweep of the leg, not something he does by routine.
Did the umpire say anything? Because
his next time up, he hit the double and then came around to score eventually. But in that plate appearance, when he got over to third, I noticed Bakich grabbing his shoulders and trying to just talk him down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I noticed an off-air mention to Ron at the time. I was like, Canarella's heated about something. I don't know what it is, but he's getting feisty.
Yeah.
So he comes in, scores, and then his next time up is a lot more subdued at the plate. Okay. Well, he draws a walk or something. Somehow he ends up on first base. Then they're doing this thing with a pickoff move where MJ Metz, the Duke first baseman, is intentionally sort of curving his body to where he's in Canarella's way. Yeah. And so it gets physical a couple of times where they're just leaning against each other or whatever. And then I think it was Doug Vines, the umpire, credit to him over at first base, stopped play, talked to both of them. And it wasn't an issue. But Canarella can play, man. He hits. He had 5 hits in I think game 1 of the series. Just an on-base machine, great fielder. He's going to have a really, really good career. And they got a number of pieces like that. Freshman Nathan Hall plays in right field. He made a couple of Superman diving catches. Came through with some big hits. Bakich, I think that's a tournament team, not next year, but the year after. They're in a regional like that. Bakich is going to have them on the right track soon.
Hey, you never know. You get these freshmen that are getting an opportunity right now that maybe they're not ready, but just that little bit of experience, then going into their sophomore year, it could be completely different where now they figured it out and then they add the right pieces, maybe add some more arms, maybe through the transfer portal, whatever it is, they could be there sooner than we expect, but it's great to see that these freshmen are doing so well so early in their careers,
Yeah.
And I can imagine Bakich, I don't know what was said. I didn't see it, but going off what you just explained, this is a thing that umpires can eject a player for nowadays or starting this year, that if their celebration is taunting or towards the other team, they could eject you. So
speaking of which, I was worried for our guy, Jake Geloff. Did you see the home run?
I didn't see that.
He spiked a bat across the opposite batter's box when he hit it. No ejection. I was a little worried when I saw it. No ejection. But
Well, Coach O'Connor probably grabbed him too and told him the same thing. That's the beauty of the coaches in this conference. Like, they all get it. They all want the players to have fun, but they all understand that don't do stupid things that you're not in the game anymore.
Yeah.
We need you in the game. So, but that's great that Clemson and Duke both are competing, because I know nobody really expected them to, and they both are well over 500 on the year. It's great to see. That's, again, just how deep this conference is.
It is. And again, Clemson, they're plucky. They got guys that can play. Caden Grice looked really sharp. He was the Sunday starter, but also hit over 500 for the series. In game number 19, finally got his first home run of the season. And it was just an absolute shot to almost dead center field.
Yeah.
That, if he gets right, that lineup can do some things. And I will say this, last thing on Clemson, the more I watched their defense, especially compared to the way Duke struggled at times over the weekend, like Alex Mooney had 2 throwing errors in the same side at one point, which is rare, but
unheard of. Yeah. It won't happen again the rest of the year.
Right. Rest of the year, it will not happen. But the more I watched Clemson's defense, and it wasn't just the unexpected to make this play, it was like they were sharp and they were giving themselves chances to turn 2, or, diving to stop a ball up the middle that saves a run. It was a lot of that. Grice, I mentioned, is the pitcher. What was working especially well for him was his slide piece, which is a pitch that by design you want it low and in the dirt. Well, when Duke would get base runners, it's sort of a give and take, right? Because you need to throw it for Grice to pitch effectively, but you know that when you throw it, you run the risk of wild pitches and letting base runners advance. And, they've got another freshman behind the plate, Jacob Jarrell, who also went yard, split time with Cooper Ingle behind the plate, and they both did a phenomenal job behind the plate. Alex Mooney actually got caught trying to steal home, and Ingle jumped it really well.
Yeah.
Got up and made the tag. The more I watched Clemson defend, I was just like, the pitching's not deep. They're young, but that travels. That will play all year long, and they are very fundamentally sound defensively, not unlike like a Virginia we talk about all the time, just doing little things right defensively. So I think that's the immediate impact Eric Bakich has had in his first year as head coach is some attention to detail, doing the little things right.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so good to hear. And if they, their pitching might turn around. You never know. It's still, it's still kind of early. There's still a lot of games left and a lot of growing to do. But if you get 1 or 2 guys that could piece things together in that bullpen, it's a whole different team.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I love what's going on in this conference so far.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We mentioned Wake up to number 2, Virginia up to number 8 in the country now. Miami back into the top 25. Gino DiMare will catch up with him, or you will here in just a second for the most part.
Louisville's up to 6.
Yeah, Louisville's up to 6. They're sort of just like quietly steady as they go.
Yeah.
Really, really good. They'll sneak up on you. It's such a good conference, and that's North Carolina, NC State.
Yeah,
also very good. I guess Carolina is still in the top 25, right?
They're 15. They jumped 15. Up to 15.
Yep. So, and speaking of which, our guy, Vance Honeycutt, highlight reel home run robbery.
Shocker.
Unbelievable play. It's such a fun league. I was talking to some people in the press box at Kingsmore who, again, they're biased because they're ACC people. But they're like, from top to bottom, I think it's better than the SEC. And it's like, LSU's the class of the country, but Wake Forest is right there with them now. And again, top to bottom, we saw a lot of things out of Duke and Clemson that were really, really impressive.
Right. Well,
Well,
so
okay.
I don't know much about LSU's pitching, and I'll just say this real quick.
Yeah.
Whoever their starters are, and I know they have probably the best player in college baseball, Dylan Cruz, getting a lot of praise, but I don't know if the world has seen the pitching staff that Wake Forest has. Like, it doesn't make sense how good their pitching staff is. So, I mean, I've always been taught, and I've seen with my own eyes, that good pitching is always going to beat good hitting. Like, at the end of the day, that's how it's going to work. If you got some dominating pitching, they're going to dominate your hitters at the end of the day. And Wake Forest, their starters are ridiculous. Their bullpen is so much better than it was last year. They got, Manasseh at the back end, but they've got pieces to get to Manasseh now, and which they didn't have before. I mean, they had Manasseh in the back end before, but they didn't have the guys to go in between to set up for Manasseh to save the lead to him. Now they do. So watch out for Wake Forest.
I will give you one name at LSU, and if you haven't seen him pitch, just as a pitcher, you will greatly appreciate his stuff. Paul Skeens at LSU.
Okay.
Big, tall guy, transfer from Air Force, actually a two-way player. He was on the collegiate national team.
Yeah.
You watch him.
I haven't seen him, but I've heard about him.
Yeah, he's fun to watch too. But but your point is well taken. Like, whatever LSU trots out there as their starting rotation and extended pitching staff.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine it's better. It might be as good as, but it's hard to imagine it's better than Wake Forest's.
Right.
All right, well, let's get to our guest this week. The Red Hot Canes are led by Gino DiMare. Now we welcome in the head coach for the Miami Hurricanes baseball program, former teammate of Danny's, Gino DiMare, after another big weekend for the Canes. Good to see you. Good to have you with us, Gino. How are things?
Yeah, well, first of all, appreciate you guys having me on. Things are good as of right now. We had a good week, I should say. Talk about the weekend, but it's really, you play 4 games. We played a midweek game too. So last week, happy about how we played. Really swung the bat really well, especially over the weekend, and that's always a good thing. And like I was telling Danny off the air there, our pitching, we've been hit a little bit with the injury bug. We lost some guys out for the year, so it's always a little nervous when you got a double header and you're little bit more thin than you want to be on the pitching side. But our offense picked us up big time this weekend, and it was a good weekend for us, and we needed that to get our confidence going, because it's not going to get any easier as we move forward here.
So that's funny you say that, because after I don't know, the last game against Florida, you guys were up in Gainesville. We had to talk some people off the ledge, Gino. It was absolutely ridiculous. I guess people didn't realize that Florida is a really good team as well. So we had to talk people off the ledge about how good Miami actually was. And you really showed that this weekend against a great ball club. What on earth got into CJ Kafis? And I know he's a great hitter, but you could not get him out all weekend.
Well, there's no doubt when we played Florida, they were clicking on all cylinders, and they are a very good team. And we, like I said before, our pitching's a little thin. And once it got kind of bad there, you're throwing guys in the back end that hadn't had much experience. And so it can get a little lopsided, and it did. So all those games were lopsided. It was a crazy series.
Yeah.
CJ was not swinging the bat, had not been swinging the bat the way we know he can swing the bat. He's the most valuable player on our team from last year, even though we have Yohandy Morales, arguably one of the top players in the country. But CJ, just all around, is just such a great player. And we've been hitting him. We were hitting him 3 and 4. Him and Yo-Yo kind of flipping back between the 3 and 4 spot in the lineup. And then CJ just wasn't clicking. And so figured let's put him back to his our leadoff. We weren't really getting a lot out of there either. So we made the decision to put him back in the leadoff spot. And ever since then, it's really kind of freed him up. It just seems he's more comfortable in that spot. And he's taken off. And since he's taken off, the whole lineup really has too. Right. We're just scoring a lot more runs. But yeah, he was on fire this weekend. And that's, it's hard to hit like that all the time. But we definitely need his production in our lineup, which we were not getting. He was definitely he was frustrated. He was frustrated the first part of the season there. You could see it, but he's certainly not now.
So is his approach different in the leadoff spot than it was when he's down in the middle of the lineup?
Danny, it's funny how you tell guys, look, I'm going to hit you third and fourth, or third or fourth. Don't change anything. CJ, you tell him, keep the same mentality as you were as a leadoff guy, because he's an aggressive guy anyways. A leadoff guy, he's not up there taking pitches. If they're gonna, he'll walk. He's got as good a discipline, probably the best discipline on our team, which fits that role in the leadoff spot. But he's also, if you're going to throw a pitch right down the middle, first pitch of the game, he's going to be ready to swing the bat. But you try to explain to the guys, just because you're moving in a different spot in the lineup, you are who you are as a hitter. Don't change any of that. And so I don't know if it's a mental thing or not, but all I can tell you is his body language, just his putting him in the leadoff spot. Maybe that took some pressure off of him. I don't know. I think the leadoff spot is an important part of the lineup too, as well as 3 and 4. I mean, you're the first guy coming up in the game, and you're setting the tone, and you're going to get up more than anybody else, being the leadoff guy in a game. So whatever it is, Dan, it certainly worked, and it's good to have a guy like that. I mean, like I said, last year he hit in the leadoff spot, and he was all everything for us.
Yeah, he's had an amazing career there. Do you see him as a first baseman at the next level, or possibly outfield? I just think he's so athletic. He could play anywhere, right?
He could. And I know I get that question asked a lot from the pro scouts. And I say, yeah, he can play outfield, but he's not going to play that here. Again, I think that's something you played with Coach Morris. And Coach Morris said, one thing he told me, one of the many things, but was having a good defensive first baseman and having a lot of value in that person over there. And especially at the college level, because you're saving some throws. You're saying just so many things that come into play at first base, with the range and being able to field your position and picking balls and all those things. And so he can play in the outfield. He has played some outfield, not here, but he has played. His freshman year, he played a few times out there. But I know the pro guys think of him as that. I compare him. Again, you always compare guys, different players and stuff. But, somebody that comes to my mind was a guy named Don Mattingly that wasn't too bad playing first base. That was athletic and kind of similar in terms of, again, I'm not saying CJ is going to be Don Mattingly, but Don Mattingly was a left-handed hitter. He hit the ball all over the field. Don Mattingly can run. He had just great instincts. He's very athletic at first base. I know that's a long time ago, but that's kind of the kind of player I see in CJ. Is kind of that old school player.
Yeah, well, Mattingly did play third base in a big league game before too. So.
Left-handed.
Yeah, amazing, and made a great play. So, so going to your pitching real quick. The starting pitching is obviously starting to click, and I know with pitching sometimes takes a couple outings to get that groove. And Zeal has been great. Ligon has been great. Obviously, I want to ask you about Rosario. The stuff that he has, man, it looks unhittable. Like it looks like he should be throwing no hitters, no hit stuff every time, and it puzzles me. What do you see his struggles like? What's the cause of his struggles as of late?
Well, it's not as of late. I mean, he's just his struggles struggles going back certainly were when things didn't go well, kind of spiraled on him, and mentally, I don't think he handled it well. I got to tell you, he has struggled this year. Mentally, though, he's handled himself pretty dang good. He's been a lot better, a lot more mature on the mound than he was in the past years, especially last year. But Danny, it's a tough one. I'm kind of right there with you. He's got as good a stuff as anybody I can recall here. Some of the issues are basically missing too much fat part of the plate. I think hitters probably see the ball out of his hand. Well, you don't see a lot of uncomfortable swings at times. At times you do, but he throws a lot of balls. He works down in the zone, but there's a lot of balls when he gets hit that are over a good part of the plate. The spin rate thing, you hear all that nowadays, and maybe his isn't as high as some other guys, and that plays into it. But it's a tough one. I know it's frustrating for him because, like you said, his arm is it's as good as I can recall anybody having. I mean, he sits. He doesn't even falter off of it. He'll sit anywhere from 95 to 90 at 98, 99 miles an hour. I mean, there's not many guys that can do that
with some
throughout
movement.
with movement and sync at times.
Yeah.
The breaking ball has gotten better than last year. The changeup is a pitch that needs to give. His changeup is very hard, and so he's throwing his changeup almost 90 miles an hour. And sometimes that's a pitch that it cannot be. It's not effective being that hard. Can work into the favor of some hitters sometimes, but it's something we're gonna. Yeah, we're trying. We're trying to figure out and get him in a position where he can be more successful, because it certainly is. It's frustrating. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So I know, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it. The top 25, what D1 puts out, I know it's not a big deal to you at this point in the season, but they did jump you guys to 17 after not being ranked. Does that mean anything to the players?
You know what? I didn't even look at it. Is that where we're ranked right now?
Yeah, it's got you at 17.
Yeah, they jumped us up. We were up there and then we fell out. And so we talk about it very little. At the beginning of the year, our goal is to be a top 8 team at the end, so we can possibly be in that situation where we're a national seed like we were last year. That gives you a better advantage, obviously, being at home for a regional and hopefully a super regional.
Yeah.
Which we weren't able to take advantage of. But you want that, have that opportunity to be at your own ballpark. So that's the most important one there. The last poll, I tell them also, the end of the year poll.
Yeah.
We were a national seed, but at the end of the day, we didn't even get out of the regional. So it's the last poll that matters the most. We don't get caught up in it too much. I think when I first started out as a head coach, I probably talked about it a little too much. I don't really get into it as much as I did then. I think that was a mistake. We tell them at the beginning of the year our goals. We all know what our number one goal is. But to get to that number one goal, being a champion, there's some things along the line that you have to put yourself in the right place. And the first one is being a national seed. And then you can break it down to, look, we want to win every series if we can. And if you have a chance, we talk about if you've won the first 2 and you got a chance to sweep, you need to take advantage of that. We did a good job of that last year. We swept some really good teams last year, and that put us in a good position. But all games matter. The last 2 years, last year, Danny, we finished a half a game out of first place to Virginia Tech, half game out of first place in the ACC.
Right.
And the year before, we finished a half a game out of first place in the Coastal to Georgia Tech, I believe it was. So, those games, every game counts, every game matters. And so that's kind of what we're focused on. I mentioned to you off the air, midweek games. Those are huge, the midweek games. I mean, when we lost, we beat NC State 2 out of 3 opening weekend, but we lost a midweek game. So we went 2-2. We didn't go 3-1. Yeah. And that makes a difference in these rankings. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at how you did throughout the week, not just the weekend. And so, that's a great thing for us. I tell the guys all the time, we're in the ACC. You're going to have unbelievable opportunities every week. Here we go again. We're going to play FAU, who's probably got the best FAU team that I've seen in quite some time. We got them midweek, and then we go on the road to play Wake Forest, who I don't know where they at. Probably 2, if I had to guess.
Yeah, they're 2 now. I did their doubleheader Saturday.
Yeah. So I mean, you guys want to move up in the polls? There you go. You got a great opportunity. But again, I think you're more focused on trying to play good baseball, and for us, trying to be at our best at the end of the season. We want to be at the hottest at the end of the season, which is so important, as you know. And so it's kind of a gradual process.
Yeah. So, well, Gino, I just wanted to thank you for joining us. I know we lost Daron, but he is watching and he's listening. But I did want to show you something. This is my jersey from when we played together. This is the first time I put it on since I was 18 years old. I don't know how it still fits, but it still fits. I wore this in honor of you, dude.
Well, I got to tell you, before I go, you were a freshman, I think, my senior year. And I'm not going to tell everybody what we nicknamed you, but we got a player on our team that looks a lot like you. He's left-handed, so I can't say reminds me, but he reminds me of you in terms of, boy, I hope he has the career that you did. He's got a lot of, let's just say, moxie. I won't use the word I want to use, but he's a left-hander named Chris Cinta, and Chris has been the surprise of the team. The fall and the scrimmages in the spring through okay. I mean, he has been unbelievable. We brought him into the game. Fearless, Danny.
Yeah.
Fearless. And you guys look a lot alike. And of course, he has the glass.
He's got the glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. And a great kid, tough kid. I mean, just it took me by surprise because I didn't see that in these scrimmages. But sometimes you know the deal when you flick the lights on. Some of these guys that change, they just change into a different person. And he's been one of those guys. And so, but you were a great teammate, man. And that uniform brings back a lot of great memories.
Yeah, this is the Ron Frazier patch on here.
92.
Special. Yeah, 92.
92 was last year. Yeah, that was a great year. We lost 7 games the entire season during the regular season. That's all we lost. Could you imagine that, losing just 7 games?
I try to tell people how good that team was. And it's hard for people to understand, like 7 games all year in the regular season. Yeah.
That's hard to do. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it done. We had it too. We had it there for the taking. We won the first 2 in the World Series. And dang, Fullerton couldn't get them.
Phil Nevin and Fullerton.
Phil Nevin in that torrential downpour rain we had to play in, and poor Coach Frazier's last game, which was ridiculous. But it was a lot of great memories. And no, you were a great teammate. That's great to see that jersey.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take it off soon because it's really squeezing my belly. You can't see that. So anyway, Gino, thank you, man. I appreciate the time, dude, and I hope to catch up with you in person again here soon. Down the road.
Same here, Danny. Take care.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks again to Gino DiMare. My thanks to Danny Graves. I'm back in the room here. We had some technical issues to sort through that will not be an issue next week. I moved. I mentioned it off the air. I moved, so I'm in a new home since the last time you and I recorded. So like there are just some logistical things that we're figuring out and piecing together. But we're making
the beauty
it work.
of technology, dude. It's all good.
We're making it work. We're making it work.
Just I know you weren't physically on the screen with us, but I know you were listening.
Yeah.
Did you hear Gino say that 1992, my freshman year, his senior year, we only lost 7 games all season?
Yeah.
The regular season. I mean, we ended up 55-10. We lost 1 in the regional and then 2 in the World Series that year. We were 2-0 in the College World Series. And then Fullerton ended up beating us twice. But that year, like, that doesn't make sense, Darren. We only lost 7 games all season.
And didn't win the whole thing.
No. I remember one of those games was against University of Tampa, Division II. They were Division II champions in the early 90s a few times.
Still a powerhouse at that level.
Yeah.
Too. They're still always good.
Yeah. So they were beating us 10-1. And we won that game, scoring 10 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. We won 11-1. Yeah. I don't know how we did it.
Did you pitch in that one? Like down 9, did Danny Graves get in the 9th in that game?
No, I don't recall myself pitching, but I can check again. Well, there might not be archives of that. But yeah, and it wasn't in this uniform because this was our away uniforms.
Right.
But yeah, I remember we scored 10 runs in the bottom of the 9th. Wow. Unbelievable. Kevin DiGiacomo. I mentioned that name before.
Yeah,
there's a couple of DiGiacomos in the league.
Giovanni DiGiacomo of Duke actually hit a game-winning home run for the Blue Devils that I got to call in game 1 of the doubleheader, game 1 of the series on Saturday.
How did you say his name? DiGiacomo!
Yeah, DiGiacomo. Ron was giving me grief for it. He's like, does he go by Gio? He goes by Gio. You've said Gio a couple of times. He goes, I'm going to call him Gio. He read it and got clarification while we were filling out our lineup cards, and he just smacks me real hard on the back. He's like, I'm going to leave that one to you.
It's such a fun name to say.
That's what I told him. I was like, gladly. I'm going to say it as much as humanly possible.
Yes, for sure.
So, all right. So you're DiGiacomo from back in the day.
Yeah. They hit a 3-run homer to walk up. We were like, it was 10-8. We scored a bunch of runs, and he hit a 3-run homer to walk it off. And it was just, Mark Light Stadium was just electric. Like, couldn't believe it, man.
That's next on my ACC venue bucket list, by the way. I gotta find a way to make Miami happen.
And then you gotta
get me a shake.
A shake, for sure. For sure. All right, that's enough of my glory days.
No, but good stuff with Gino. Really interesting too to hear him talk about his current player, CJ Kafis.
Yeah.
And don't think I didn't hear that Don Mattingly comp. Like he did clarify it with, I'm not saying he's going to be Don Mattingly, and
Right.
it's dumb that we always have to do that when we make such statements, but
Right.
that was wise of him to do so.
Yeah.
Um,
Even though we know where he's not saying that, but
right,
yeah,
right. But
Yeah.
interesting nonetheless. Kafis, 3 home runs in their doubleheader over the weekend is just off to a really, really good. I hesitate to say start to the season because it's we're in it now. He's having a good season. He's having a good season.
Well, and he got hot at the right time, and Gino mentioned the fact that he changed him back to the leadoff spot in the lineup, and for whatever reason, that's where he's more comfortable. And when he started to go, the rest of the team started to go again, and it's perfect timing because of ACC play that started recently. So yeah,
no doubt. All right, I guess it's time for Hall of Name.
It's
right?
time.
It's been a couple weeks. We didn't get to do it this one last time.
I know.
So, let's see. I've got my list here. I want to go back to the bulk of your major league career was with the Reds, so I don't want to keep tapping into your brief stint with the Mets. Although there are some other good ones in there. We'll get to it.
Hey, there's some good stories with the short time there. Short time with the Indians, some good stories. Or now the Guardians, but it was the Indians then.
Right. Yep.
Obviously.
I've got a couple from your Cleveland days that are maybe a little more obscure, but are of interest to me just for random reasons.
The good thing is, if there's somebody that I don't want to talk about, we can always edit it out, right?
You can always say, Darren, I'm not going to talk about that person. And then we'll just do a new one and no one will ever know. So.
Right.
All right. So we're going not Cleveland. We're not going Cleveland. Although there's some good ones there. The very first name when I made this list that I wrote down for Cleveland, I'm tempted to ask about that one. No. All right. We're going to go with the Reds.
Okay.
Hall of Name, by the way, is the part of the show where I name we close the show out with it. I don't have my usual script in front of me because of all the disarray. Danny Graves, former big league closer, not quite 200 major league saves in his career. And I name a former teammate of his. That is, whether it's with Miami as a collegian, with Team USA on the collegiate national team. He was with Cleveland. He was with the Reds. He was with the Mets at the major league level. I don't have minor league teammates here. That's a little harder to curate, but maybe I need to dig some of those up. And some of these guys with Cleveland you came up with, so they would qualify as well. Yeah. But I give a name of a former teammate, and it's not quite word association because I want way more than one word. But Danny has to give me the first story, anecdote, awkward interaction, whatever comes to mind for the player that I mentioned. All right, so we call it Hall of Name. Here we go. Aaron Boone.
Seriously, I almost knew that you were going to say that. And my therapist says I'm very intuitive, so I guess it worked again. So Aaron Boone, we go way back. Of course, there's a lot of stories with me and Aaron Boone. The first thing that comes to mind, though, 1997, I get traded from Cleveland to Cincinnati, and I get sent to AAA Indianapolis, and I just come off the disabled list now this is injured list. It was the disabled list back then. I just came off that. I had a biceps tendonitis when I was with Cleveland. So I got activated, go to Cincinnati. So I still feel not feeling very good, but since they traded me, I'm like, I got to show this team that I can play and blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to pitch. Well, we're in Nashville playing the Nashville Sounds. And there was a runner on third, second and third, actually. Fly ball to the outfield. I'm pitching. The runner from third takes off early. So Boone's playing third. He said, hey, he took off too soon. Let's do an appeal. So I'm like, okay. And the runner stayed at second. So appeal. This gets us out of the inning. I step off the mound and I tell the umpire, runner from third left early. And I go to throw it to Aaron at third. I sail it into the stands.
Oh, Nashville.
No. Yes. into the stands, like not even joking. And this is, I don't know if you've ever been to that ballpark. I don't know if
Great
it's the same
ballpark. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the stands are very close to the field. So like literally goes in the stands. Well, guess what? The runner from second gets to come around and score. So I'm like,
because it's out of play. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, oh man.
And I'm like, what just happened? And Aaron's like, I watched him. He goes like this. Didn't even try for it. Like, not that he could have gotten it, but
no, but like sometimes you can fake sort of like a jumping or whatever, like, right? Like you leave your tiptoes for a brief moment and you're like, oh, okay, it's sailed.
No, he didn't even lift up his glove. He just kind of watched it. Like, it was so bad and it was so embarrassing, but I'm like, I cannot believe that just happened, but it happened.
Man, so, that is a bizarre occurrence. Not many people can say, I bet, that's happened.
No, well, not many people would admit that happened, but I have no shame.
True.
I have no shame because we're human, man. We make mistakes.
Well, and to your point, those seats are really, really, really close to the players in that instance. So you don't have to overthrow it by much to put it out of play. The one time I went to, I don't know what it's called now, but the ballpark in Nashville where the Sounds play. It's been a while, like maybe 10 years ago I went. Manny Ramirez was on one of his PED suspensions for the LA Dodgers. And I remember when we went, I was so, people I went with didn't care. It was just a social thing, right? Hey, we're going to be in Nashville. Let's go to the game. But me being the basic that I am, was paying very close attention to, okay, who are we going to see? Well, after I think it was a 50-game suspension for Manny, they brought him back slowly, or give him a couple reps of a rehab start or whatever it would be called in that instance. So he was down with the Albuquerque Isotopes, and we just missed him by like a day playing in Nashville. No. And I was so hoping to be able to see Manny Ramirez play a minor league game. That was like one of the ones, it's like a quirky.
Well, was the guitar still there?
Yeah. The guitar was there. It was a great experience. It poured the rain. So they ended up calling the game after like 5.5 innings, and it was a nightmare to get out of the parking lot because everybody was trying to pile out at the same time.
Right.
Rain. But so that's my one experience in Nashville. But our seats, we were, no joke, second row on that third baseline.
So you would have caught that ball probably.
I might. I don't know. I didn't see it. It might have been over my head.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think it did go past the second row for sure. I had a lot on it because I just didn't know. I just threw it. But that team, that was when they were the White Sox. 97 was last year. Nashville had the AAA White Sox.
Yeah.
That team was stacked. Mike Cameron was on that team. Maglio Ordonez was on that team. James Baldwin was one of their pitchers on that team. I mean, they were so good, man. And it was just, I loved playing there, but don't love that moment, but
that's great.
Uh-oh.
Great story there. All right. So that's Hall of Name.
That's Hall of Name
with Danny Graves. Be sure to tune in next time to see what former teammate's name I throw at him.
There are more stories about Aaron Boone, but we don't have time for that.
That's fine. It's totally fine. I'm struggling, Danny, with like how to balance some of the more obscure ones. I'm trying to keep this, broad, right? And Aaron Boone, manager of the New York Yankees, there's some broad appeal there. We've talked about some Hall of Famers, Ken Griffey Jr., Pedro Martinez in that segment. There are some, again, relatively obscure ones that I do want to bring up, but I don't want to like waste the segment. So maybe we'll work it in as I'll give you 2 names some weeks. Maybe. Yeah,
2 names, and then I pick one, or I talk about both of them.
Oh, you talk about both. If I say the name, you're talking about it.
Perfect. I mean, you could even say names of guys I went to school with, The Rock, Warren Sapp. I mean,
that is a different
Marley.
Kind of Hall of Name. That's okay. That's got my wheels turning. A different kind of Hall of Name. Maybe we'll bring some of those up eventually.
Yeah, whatever we need. Or I can just, transition into those guys if we talk about. I mean,
it's WrestleMania season. WrestleMania is coming up. The Rock won't be there, but that might be good reason to talk Dwayne Johnson.
Hey, whatever we need to do. If you mention a Miami player that I was teammates with, I'll find a way to get The Rock in there or Sap in there somehow.
Good, nice, perfect, excellent. Good to know. It's noted for next week. And any games this coming weekend?
Wake Forest, Miami. Miami travels to Wake Forest. I know we've talked about Wake Forest a ton, but Miami is playing their best baseball right now. So their best baseball against a great Wake Forest team. It's going to be a huge series at the Couch this weekend.
Cool. I'll be nearby at Boshemer Stadium at UNC. Duke
nice.
Comes to town. So
you'll be keeping an eye on Honeycutt for me.
I will. I'll keep an eye on Vance Honeycutt. I believe I've just got one of the games on the series because if I'm not mistaken, it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series.
Okay.
Thursday and Friday might be on the linear network, whereas mine is on ACCNX. So I've just got Saturday, but
who do they have? Who'd you say they're playing?
Duke at UNC. So some March Madness of a different kind. Now that both the men's basketball teams are out.
This is the important part now.
Yeah. Now this is the one that matters.
Yeah, we got to get Coach Forbes on one of these days too, because they're quietly moving up in the rankings.
Yeah.
Love Coach Forbes.
No doubt. All right. Well, have fun with that.
Yeah.
We'll revisit the ACC slate at the beginning of next week. That is ACC baseball, etc. He's Danny Graves. I'm Darren Vaught. As reminders, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at ACCBSBETC on each. Please follow, subscribe, rate, review. All the social media stuff. Apple, Spotify, wherever. 5 stars and appropriate for air, and we'll read it on the show. We have had very few takers on this proposition, Danny, but I just need to reiterate. Give us 5 stars and leave a review. Literally, whatever you put in there, we're going to read it on the show. So have at it. We appreciate it and appreciate you listening. Until next time, we'll see you later.